When the United States entered World War II in 1941, the role of women began to dramatically change. While many men went off into battle, more women were called upon to enter the workforce and even join the war effort. Frances Cotone is one of the 250,000 women who entered the armed services in World War II. She was born in the Bronx, New York, but currently lives at the Chapin Home for the Aging in Jamaica, Queens. While many men feared the day they would be drafted into the war, Frances Cotone remembers the very day she willingly enlisted.
My very best girlfriend decided that we should go into the Marine Corps. We were very close. And we went and we got our examination. They picked me and they rejected her.
Her decision followed the news that her two older brothers were being drafted into the war. Her oldest brother was the first to be drafted in 1941 at the start of the war. Do you remember when the war first started?
I remember the day I cried because I knew my brothers, they were the first to call for the draft. And it hurt.
Do you remember how you were feeling when that happened?
Very sad and very angry to think that he's my oldest brother. He was 10 years older than me. And he was such a wonderful man. He got killed in Belgium by the Germans. My mother took it very hard because it was her firstborn and he was supposed to have been discharged. He was 35 and the Germans weren't taking prisoners that day. And my mother went into mourning for years. She never came out black. Because the old Italian women were like that.
Cotone was motivated by this tragedy that struck her family to make one of the biggest decisions of her life.
Well, I wanted to go because my brothers were gone, and being a girl in an Italian family, I had no freedom.
The Marines would provide an escape from the strict Italian household she was raised in, but took a toll on the relationship with her mother.
Girls stayed home until they got married, and then they were allowed out. When she heard that I was going to the Marines, she disowned me. She never wanted to hear from me. She never wanted to know anything about me until I got to North Carolina.
But this was a decision Cotone was set on. She left for the Marine Corps at 22 years old to Cherry Point, North Carolina, where she would be stationed at the Women's Reserve with the Air 14 for 30 years.
When I was in the service, I showed training films and showing how to mount and dismount a BAR rifle.
The Women's Reserve also served to release the men in the Air Force from their duty. The Marine Corps proved to be a life-changing experience in more than one way. This was also the site where Frances Cotone met her future husband.
We were married in a little town in New Bern, North Carolina. And the priest was from New York. And when they called rollers in the morning, a roll call, they would call for Sergeant Cotone, and both of us would answer.
Frances Cotone remained in the Marines for 3 years until being discharged after getting pregnant. Her husband was able to be discharged 3 years later. The couple bought a house in Levittown where they later had 4 more girls.
I have 8 grandchildren, 11 great-grandchildren, and 4 great-great-grandchildren. Think about it, and I'm kind of surprised at myself for doing it.
Why is it surprising?
Well, I never thought I'd have the courage because I was very leery of doing anything. And to go into the Marine Corps was really quite shocking to me.